guys, what's up? Welcome back to the video, and this is me ranking every single character in The Batman. I'll be doing a tier list today with 10 different characters from Matt Reeves' The Batman. This video will be containing spoilers for each of the characters. I'll be talking about some of their story points, so if you haven't already seen the movie, you can check out my spoiler-free review, which is on screen right now. Before we get to the videos and you're in here, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss any time of a new video or I go live. Both wasting more time, let's get into it. So starting it off, we have Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, and I would honestly put the Penguin at great. Even though he barely had any screen time, I thought that the scenes he had were spread out throughout the movie really well. And I will also say the way that his character was formatted within the story was really interesting, because a long time ago Colin Farrell said that he only had 5 to 6 scenes in the Batman, and that really worried me because we didn't know that we were getting a show of him at the time. But now that I've seen the movie and I see his impact on screen, even though he had such minimal screen time, I'm so excited for his future in this franchise and I cannot wait for his show. At the end of the movie, we did get a tease that he's probably going to be taking advantage of Gotham as they're still flooded, as the National Guard and stuff is still coming in. I think he's going to become the kingpin of the underground world in Gotham during the flood and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited for his future. Next up, we have Bruce Wayne. Now, I have split up Bruce Wayne and Batman into 2 separate characters because I do think that they're in different categories in this movie. I'm going to put Bruce Wayne at GOAT. Now, people might disagree with me because of the fact that Bruce Wayne is barely in this movie, but in my opinion, after they find out who the Rat was, after they find out that Carmine Falcone is the Rat, and Bruce Wayne finds out that his father was a corrupt politician, all that kind of stuff, and his family history, all stuff along those lines, his character becomes the main driving motivation for Batman. Batman is the stuff that Bruce Wayne can't express, and the only way to do that is through Batman, which makes the second half of the movie completely a Bruce Wayne story. The first half is Batman trying to save Gotham, and obviously physically it's still Batman saving Gotham in the second half. But in the second half of the movie, it still feels like, to me personally, Bruce Wayne is the moving forward factor of the story itself because of his personal vendetta against the Riddler. Also, Carmine Falcone and Moroni. Speaking of Carmine Falcone, next up is Carmine Falcone. I actually think he's a great character. I just don't think he had enough of a screen time, and the fact that he also died makes him just a great character because I feel like he would have needed more. The reason I put Penguin on the same scale is because I do think Penguin has more of a future ahead of him that I'm more excited for, so I'm going to put him at great. But I did put Falcone above Penguin and great, and I will be ranking them within the tier, so you can see I still do prefer Falcone over Penguin in this movie specifically, but I do think Penguin has a way brighter future because obviously Falcone is dead. But for Falcone himself, I really did like what they did with the story. I love the reveal that he's Selena's father and that he killed her mother, and he didn't even accept Selena as his daughter, and that whole storyline is so great. And I think that Selena Kyle as a whole character is great. I'll be talking about it later in this video. I don't think any character in this movie is actually bad, and when we first heard that Falcone was in this movie, I was really scared because I thought that they were just going to rush him in, but he's only in this movie. He died, and I called this in a few theory videos ago, and I did talk about it, but I called that he was going to die, and I knew he had to die so Penguin could actually rise up, because technically Penguin is still his henchman in this movie. But the fact that Falcone dies and his impact on the rest of Gotham, how he took the renewal fund and he spread it out within Gotham, paying out the DA, the mayor, police officers, and then took the rest of the money for himself and took it away from the poor, making him the Rat that Riddler is talking about. All of these little things, he's just such a devious character that I have to put him at great. Next up is Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon definitely goes in GOAT. He's one of my favorite side characters of all time. I do think Jeffrey Wright is the definitive Jim Gordon in live action Batman. Personally, I love most iterations of Jim Gordon, but I don't know what it was. I think it was mainly just the relationship between Gordon and Batman that made me love this Gordon so much. But I also love how much he still trusts Batman even though he doesn't know who he is. There's one line in this movie where he tells Batman, "You've known me for 2 years, but you still won't tell me who you are." And Batman asks him, "Do you trust me?" And so there's a different relationship between these two characters, and I cannot wait to see it unfold later in this universe. I think Jim Gordon has a lot of potential to become one of the best movie side characters of all time just because of his relationship with the main character and how deep it really is. Next up is DA Gil Coulson. I'm going to put him at a good character just because we barely got him on screen, but the reason I put him at good and not mid or bad is because the acting from Alexander Skarsgård, I think is the actor who plays him, is so well done. You can really feel the fear in that funeral scene. In the funeral scene, the dialogue when the Riddler is asking the riddles and all that kind of stuff, the tension is so high. And one of the biggest reasons for that is Alexander Skarsgård's phenomenal acting. Bounce that off of Robert Pattinson's phenomenal acting as Batman, it makes for an almost perfect scene. I would say that funeral scene is like my second favorite scene in the entire movie. Next up is Mayor Pete Savage. I'm gonna put Pete Savage at the bottom of good, just because I do think Pete Savage is still a good character, but we just didn't get enough of him. We did get a good sense of his relationship with Jim Gordon and a good sense of his relationship with Batman in the first detective scene that we got when they went to the mayor's house where he got murdered and they're on the detective scene and all that kind of stuff. We got a good grasp of relationships, but we never really got much else. Pete Savage, the actor who plays him, I'm not sure what his name is, but he did a good job acting him. It just wasn't anything mind-blowing like Gil Coulson, in my opinion. But next up is the man, the myth, the legend, the Riddler, played by Paul Dano. Number one, before I even rank him, Paul Dano is an absolutely phenomenal actor. He should be on your watch out list for good actors because he consistently plays side roles, but he consistently makes them absolutely phenomenal. I'm putting him at GOAT. I'm going to put him right above Bruce Wayne. The Riddler in this movie is menacing. As I've said in all my past Batman videos, he is not present in the movie, but he has a massive presence. The Riddler doesn't even feel like he has a lot of screen time, but the impact that he has is absolutely insane, and you can really feel his impact in everything that happens. He's also the main catalyst for all of the horror elements in this movie. In the first 5 minutes of this movie, I literally, when the opening, you guys know the opening, you've seen the movie, it basically like blinks lights and he's standing in the background. The current mayor doesn't even know he's there, and the Riddler's just waiting to strike when he turns off the TV, and it's just mind-blowing how haunting this character is. Along with the score by Michael Giacchino, the score for the Riddler is a top-tier villain score ever made, and the Riddler is just so good. Also, I mentioned this in my spoiler review, the fact that Batman never puts a finger on the Riddler and the Riddler is still an absolute menace to him speaks volumes on his character. But next up is the title character for the movie, the Batman. I'm putting him at top, the best, the GOAT. He's the best of the best because he is the movie. He's like 99% of this movie. This movie is a POV-driven detective story following Batman. Robert Pattinson is in the Batman suit for like 99% of the movie, I'd like to say. And when he's not in the Batman suit, he's either Bruce Wayne or he's about to be in the Batman suit and we're just waiting for him to show up. Like, it is just so well done how you can craft a story around Batman himself. It feels like it's a story straight ripped out of the comics, and I absolutely love it. I have this action figure of his suit right here, and I absolutely adore this suit. It's one of my favorite parts of this entire movie. Just how tactile the suit is and how he uses even just this chest piece at the end of the movie. It's just so good. But with that being said, the next character on the list is Andy Serkis's Alfred. I'm going to put Andy Serkis's Alfred at the very top of great, right above, edging out Carmine Falcone, just because even though Alfred wasn't in the movie for that long, he still had a massive impact. He's obviously the one that shifted Bruce's whole ideal, and he's the one that exposed what Carmine Falcone did to Thomas Wayne, to Bruce, and all that kind of stuff. And I also like this Alfred, even though he's not in the movie that much, you can tell that he's very hands-on. He understands the technology, and I love a super spiritual and inspiring Alfred like Michael Caine in the Dark Knight movies, but I will say this Alfred being more hands-on and giving this crazy, like, beautiful advice to Bruce Wayne, inspiring him to be Batman and to understand his life better and just make better decisions for who he really is to the public eye. All of these different things, I think he combines all of the best aspects of who Alfred is supposed to be, and he makes him into the perfect Alfred. Now to the final character on the tier list, who is Selena Kyle. I'm going to put Selena Kyle at GOAT, right above Bruce Wayne. I think Selena Kyle in this movie is so well crafted. I've mentioned this a lot before, but I really do adore that her story is a main story within the bigger main story. She feels like she's not just driven by the same thing as Batman. Obviously, by the end, she does end up helping Batman for the same reason, to stop the Riddler, but in the beginning, she has a completely different motive. She wants to save her friend. She wants to find out who did whatever to her friend, and she wants to get back at Carmine Falcone for her own reasons. She's not just a ploy for Batman, and obviously in the beginning of the movie, she does leave the Batman because she feels like she's just being used by him. She's a character on her own, and she doesn't feel like she has to have Batman there, and I'm also very excited for the future of these movies. I hope we get to see an HBO Max series of Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle. Also, the performance by Zoe Kravitz is phenomenal as Catwoman, and just as a whole, all of the performances in this movie were so great. As you can see, no character was in the mid or bad tier because even smaller side characters had enough effort and detail put into them, whether it was from the acting side of things or their impact on the story. They were still impactful at all times, and they still just really, all they did was elevate this movie. But yeah, guys, that's my ranking of all of the characters in the new Batman movie. Let me know your ranking for all 10 of these characters in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.